Hey y'all, this is Spiritual Sip Sunday number 12. How are you doing? I'm doing good. Today, we're actually going to be talking about purpose. Like, what is your purpose? What is your purpose in life? How do you go about pursuing that? And the anxiety that comes with it, because I feel it. I feel it too. Sometimes it gets just really overwhelming and we have to just take it step by step. And so we're talking about that today. We're out here representing Nebraska today. This is Spiritual Sip Sunday, number 12. So whenever I would hear purpose or talk about purpose, it would always freak me out so much because I'm like, I'm so young. How am I supposed to figure out what I'm supposed to do with my life? And it would become so overwhelming. And if anything, thinking about my purpose and my calling would stress me out, especially when I was like college age and it was like, oh, decide your whole life right now. What do you want to do for the rest of your life? I'm like, I don't know. A lot of times what we initially feel like we're called to do is not what God actually wants us to do. I feel like a lot of times with purpose, when we start out with purpose, we kind of start out on what's something I'm interested in, okay, and then just pursue that and kind of go off in our own way and live by the flesh. And we can sometimes build something up, just go after it and think, yes, this is my purpose. But then when we follow the Lord and we give our lives to the Lord, He's like, perfect, thank you. Now let's like reroute. It's biblical. Let me pull it up. It says in Proverbs 19:21, and I'm reading from the Passion, a person may have many ideas concerning God's plan for his life, but only the designs of God's purpose will succeed in the end. So it's saying you might have an idea, but in the end, when God shakes it, the only thing that's left standing is the designs of God's purpose in the end. What He has called you to do, what God has put on your heart, and what He is forming will only succeed in the end. And sometimes that can be discouraging, but I want you to view it as comforting. The things that are left standing are what God has allowed to stand, and He sees that it is good. A lot of times we go in our own path and in our own way, and we don't trust the Lord with all areas of our life. And that even means with your career, what you're supposed to do with your life, your purpose, and your calling. And so sometimes that does mean trial and error, where we go in our own strength, we go in our own way, and we might actually have just like the best interests at heart and just think, I really think I'm called to this. But then the Lord makes us take a step back. And it's like, hey, actually you're not. And I don't want you to view it as like disheartening, but like I said, it's comforting because the Lord is just giving you gentle correction. And I would take gentle correction over like anything. It's almost like when a baby's walking, or if a baby's like beelining it towards like a coffee table and the parent's like, I know you're gonna hit your head. They just steer them away. Gentle correction. We're not supposed to go that way. So if you're like me, and you're like, nay, I don't even know what I'm supposed to do. I thought I was supposed to go in my own strength and do this, but then God completely rerouted me, and now I'm like, what am I supposed to do with my life? It's overwhelming. It's a lot. I know. The thing that I take comfort in is knowing that when I give my life to the Lord, or when I gave my life to the Lord all those years ago, I gave over control over my life. So that means the things like purpose, I don't have to do in my own strength. All of the big things that I was doing before that I felt like I was failing at doing, now I give over onto God's hands and just let Him figure it out. It's like the best part. Because I'm like, I don't know how to do this. Here you go, God. I don't want to think about it anymore. I'm going to let you take care of it. And so maybe that's what you need to do today. Just come to a place of surrender and just say, Lord, I have no idea what I'm supposed to do, but I'm not going to stress over it anymore. Here you go. Here's my anxiety over my purpose and my calling. Maybe I'm good at art. Don't know what that means. I feel like I'm a good public speaker. No idea where I'm supposed to go with that. And you're supposed to hand it over to the Lord. Maybe you're supposed to do that today. Some of you might even be asking, why do I even need to ask God? Why do I need to ask Him what my calling is? Why do I need to even concern Him with that? Because I already feel like I have a pretty good idea. I already have that job. I already have a general direction. I'm already going to school for this. Like, I feel like I got this covered. I want to remind you that God knew you before you were even formed in your mother's womb. He knew you before anybody else knew you. He knew you before your parents even knew you. So He knows you pretty well. He made you. You would think that a God who made you from scratch, perfect and unique in your own way, unlike anybody else on this earth, you would think a God that does that or did that would know what's best for you in your life. I thought that same thing too. I'm like, why would I even bother to bring this up to the Lord? Because like, I can just do it. But God is God. He created the heavens and the earth. He doesn't even listen to time because He made time. He doesn't listen to something that He created. He doesn't follow something He created. And He has a call and a purpose on my life that I'm still trying to figure out. And so I want to follow His call and His purpose instead of mine. Because if God is God, He knows better than I do. He knows a lot more than I do. And I know He's a good God. I know He's not going to call me to something that I don't want to do, or that doesn't make my heart happy, or that doesn't fulfill something in me. I know he would never do that because he's not a harsh and he's not a cruel God. Without the Lord, I'm nothing. I'm just like a wisp that's here today and gone tomorrow. My life is not much. But if I hand it over to the Lord, he knows what's best for me. He knows what will make my heart happy, what will fulfill me the most. He knows everything. And so I want to do it the right way. We only get one chance here on earth, and I want to give it all to God and then walk out in what he has for me. It says, Jeremiah in 29:11, "For I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord, plans to prosper you and not to harm you, plans to give you hope in a future." He's going to make sure that you are happy, that you are fulfilled, and that you have a future. In him there is life. When we choose to live by our flesh, there's death. That's why it says, plans to give you hope in a future. When we live by the flesh, it leads to death. But when we live by the Spirit and we follow him, it leads to eternal life. And so that's why I want to follow him, and hopefully I encourage you to follow him and follow his purpose on your life, because his ways are better always. And so when we talk about our calling and we get overwhelmed, and I know, like, I'm there almost every day. But this is something the Lord has been teaching me, that you don't have to have your purpose accomplished right now. Your purpose is something that you do over the span of your entire life. You never just achieve it and you're like, yep, I'm here. That's it. The Lord is always constantly refining, renewing you, and bringing you to higher levels. And so if you feel like God has called you to be a speaker and to preach the gospel, that is great. You can't really step on stage instantly as soon as you receive that call and just preach. I mean, you could, but most likely you won't. You need to take it day by day. It says, your word is a lamp for my feet. Imagine like you're in a dark room and you have a little lamp and it's dark. You can maybe only see what's right in front of you. We have to take it step by step, because if we have this little lamp, it only illuminates what's right in front of us. For example, I feel like I'm supposed to post on TikTok. And so if I feel like God has called me to all these things, I can't get overwhelmed and say, how am I going to get there? Because I have to seek first his kingdom. Your word is a lamp for my feet. So I have to seek first his kingdom and then let him show me where to walk. Because if I don't even have his lamp, I'm walking in darkness. But your word is a lamp to my feet. You show me the steps that I need to take. And so every single day I do what he tells me to. Give me this day our daily bread. That's how we're supposed to take it, with our purpose and our calling, day by day. So maybe our purpose for that day is to just wake up and Sabbath and rest and find enjoyment in resting and just receiving from the Lord. Or maybe your purpose for today is to just post a TikTok. Maybe that's all the Lord wants you to do. As long as it's a step forward, and as long as you're walking in God's will for your life, you should never worry about or have anxiety about your purpose or your calling. It might seem like small little steps, but it's small little steps that leads to the thing that God has called you to. And you can't just jump. You can't just skip over it. There has to be a preparation season for everything. God does not like rushing. God does not rush. He does not listen and go off of your time schedule. It says there's a time for everything and a season for every activity under the heavens. There's a time for everything. There's a time when you are walking in your calling, walking in your purpose, and you received that promise that you are building towards. But also what you're called to do is just go day by day. Seek first his kingdom. Give us this day our daily bread, to just walk it through with the Lord. You're not going to ever get to the end goal if you don't take these steps every single day. So when it comes to your purpose and your calling, I know it can get very overwhelming to look at the big picture and say, God, you called me to all of these big things. How am I even going to get there? How am I even going to start? What did God tell you to do today? Go grocery shopping? Talk to that one person in the line? Compliment one person? Post a TikTok? You're walking in your calling. You're doing it because you're walking in purpose and what God has called you to. Don't look at the end goal and get confused on how you're going to get there. If God has called you to something, he's going to show you how to get there and he's going to walk you through it. Sometimes the things that God calls us to is actually overwhelming and it seems scary. And sometimes you might not even know what you're walking to because God won't tell you how big it is. But regardless, every single mountaintop, you have to go through a valley. Do not worry about pursuing your purpose and calling and looking at the big picture. It's all the tiny, small little brushstrokes that you don't even see unless you get real close to the picture and you're like, oh yeah, this all makes sense. It's part of the big picture. You need to rest in knowing that you don't have to have it all figured out. Put it over in God's hands and don't snatch it back. Because if you surrender it and you're like, Lord, I give you this anxiety I'm having over my purpose and my calling, I just give it over to you. You just tell me what to do every single day and I will walk towards what you called me to. Don't snatch it back. Don't give it over to him and then go, you know, my friend, I'm seeing them kind of like pop off on social media, or my friend just actually got married. I'm gonna take that anxiety back, because actually I don't trust you anymore, because I feel like I'm doing all of these little things and nothing's happening. So I'm gonna take that back. Don't do that. You have to trust the process, and you have to do it with an open hand. Be like, Lord, I give this to you, and you can't knuckle it. You can't. You have to sit there with an open palm, and you have to get to the point where you're like, Lord, I just trust you with whatever you're doing. If he gives you a promise, you're like, okay, great. You need to give it right back. If he gives you a purpose and a calling and says, you're going to be an author, you are going to preach, you're going to worship, you're going to be a worship leader, you're going to be an amazing mother, you're going to be an amazing father. You need to hold it like this and say, okay, Lord, your ways are better. I don't know how to steward this well. I'm going to take it day by day. I'm giving this back to you. Lord, do what you want with it. And that's how you're supposed to walk out your purpose and calling. Don't look at the big picture. Look at the small things first. Go day by day, because that's how you get to the big picture. It's something that took me so long to understand and really settle into. When I lay something down at the feet of the Lord, I'm not supposed to pick it back up. And so every single day I say, Lord, I'm going to walk in your calling for me today. I'm going to post that YouTube video. I'm going to post that TikTok. I'm just going to do what you tell me to do every day. And I'm trusting that you're leading me to the bigger picture. I want you to find comfort, not anxiety, when you think about your purpose and your calling. And so, yeah, I just want to encourage you that you don't have to have it all figured out. I don't have it all figured out. Some of the people you look up to, they probably don't even have it all figured out. But yeah, thank you so much for joining me for the 12th ever Spiritual Sip Sunday. This was super fun to just chat about purpose, and I hope you enjoyed it. Like, comment, and subscribe. If you enjoy this kind of content, I will be posting every Sunday for your Spiritual Sip Sunday, so you can get that little sip of Jesus and then go about your day. Hopefully I'll see you next week. Bye. That's it.